Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you're here at this Poetry for Climate Change. I'm Thea Iberall, as you all know, and my compadre here is Rabbi Katy Allen. We are both part of Jewish Climate Action Network. We work to help reduce the carbon in the environment and to keep people spiritually resilient and aware of things going on. And poetry and writing is important to both of us, so we decided to put this together. Katy, you want to jump in and say something?
Yes, thank you everybody for coming. It's just it's so nice to have you here with us today. Uh, we're a relatively small group and we decided that we were going to keep this kind of informal. We want to make sure that whoever has something that you want to share, that you'll have time to do that, but we also want to just invite reflection. So, we'll stop sometimes for that, and you're welcome to also use the chat if you want. And Thea's gonna share a poem story to start, and we'll offer something else. I'll share a couple of things a little bit of the way in, and we want to make sure that there's time for you to share whatever you're bringing as well. So welcome. And this is the first time we're ever doing this, and we'll see what it is, and you can let us know if you like it or not, and we'll think about whether we're going to do it again. But first, let's do this first time. So welcome, everyone, and I invite Thea to take the stage, so to speak, and lead us off with her story poem.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we're going to do this in a call and response type of format instead of having a feature or two. We will do the poetry and discuss it and what things come up. And then if you have a poem that responds to that, then just, raise your hand and we'll have this flow. And I started out as a page poet in 1992, I think was my first poem that was published. And I started memorizing my poems and so that I could hear them. And as a result of that, I turned into a performance poet. And I was represented Los Angeles at the National Poetry Slams in 1998, where we came in third in the country, 1 point out of first place. But anyway, so some of the poetry that I do could look like stories, could look like performance poems. This one that I want to start with, I'm sure many of you have heard this already. I love it, and it's called The Difference. And it's what happened, something I experienced in 2015 when the Pope came to Washington, and we had such hope for how the Pope could change the world's direction. And in many ways, this is very sad to read it because, we had these high hopes and it didn't really work out. But I am, it's meaningful. The Pope went to Washington, and because I'm Jewish, I went too. 200 of us moved our Yom Kippur services to the steps of the Lincoln Memorial so that we could support the Pope's climate encyclical. It was the Day of Atonement, the holiest day of the Jewish year, where we fast and atone for our sins. And as the sun turned the Washington Monument into a golden pink, we read our sins. Usually these are for being preoccupied with ourselves and for ignoring our spiritual development, but this time it was different. For the harm, the hurt, and the damage we have caused by not recycling. Vial, kulam, Elohai, selachot. For all these sins, God of mercy, selachlanu, machalanu, kaperlanu. Forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. For the harm, the hurt, the damage we have caused by killing off 10,000 species a year and letting rainforests be cut down. for the harm, the hurt, the damage we have caused by using fossil fuels. Vial, kulam, elachos, elachot, selaklanu, mechalanu, kaperlanu. Over the distant loudspeaker, we could hear the Pope. And at the same moment, as part of our service, we read the prayer for the earth from his encyclical. It was like we were reading it right back to him. Bring healing to our lives that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty and not pollution and destruction. Usually in the service, we read from the books of the prophets, but this time it was different. The rabbis quoted from many spiritual leaders, including Martin Luther King, who said all life is connected, tied to a garment of destiny. What affects one affects all. I could see the Canada geese landing in the reflecting pool, the little bugs calling on the ground, the airplanes flying overhead. We ended by chanting the Kaddish, the Jewish prayer for the dead. Usually we say it once for our ancestors, but this time we said it again for all the dying species. At the Yom Kippur service, they asked us to finish this sentence. When I think of the world, it breaks my heart because, for me, it breaks my heart to hear the world, to think of the world that my grandchildren are inheriting. I look at their 3- and 4-year-old little hands as they reach up for peanut butter sandwiches, how they spin around for joy as they play with their dad, how they curl up at night feeling safe in their beds. They don't know that resource wars have already begun, that millions of people are on the move, running from rising waters and debilitating drought, when they are in their 20s and 30s, caught up in wild weather and desperate for food. Will they glare at me and ask me, why didn't you do more? What will I say? That it was different back then? That I was too dazzled by the conveniences of capitalism to join into a solidarity economy? That I kept using gasoline and didn't get solar panels on my house because of the expense? That I didn't stop oil companies from fracking and building pipelines because I had something more important to do? I'll tell them I went to Washington because one pope could make a difference. I'll tell them I wrote a poem that I shared one evening with some people who want to sow beauty and not pollution and destruction, people who believe that all life is connected. I'll say I looked into those people's eyes and asked them to join in so that we can face the future together, because united we'll share the burden of fear and act together. Because this time, it is different. Thank you.
Ooh. Thea,
Yeah.
I was very, very infected by that encyclical too, and I wrote a poem about it too. Is it okay for me to share it now? I had written another poem on a lot of Jewish themes. The irony of this poem is it has a lot of Christian imagery in it, but I think it's good, and I'm going to read it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Every spirit prays, no drum or choir. I heard a pope cry out for the earth with a clarion denied by those who hang carcasses on every cannon. He declared that all the creatures of the earth, crushed by footprint and glyphosate, will rise to the seat of Christ. But no eyes rose from the platters teeming with martyrs. He mingled the cry of the earth with the cry of the poor and called out the rupture that is sin. But no one stood in assembly with the parched fields or their first victims. He embraced reason to justify faith, but neither was aired in the plaudits issuing from dim sanctuaries. He wept for fish slipping through the hands of those called to fish for men, but they returned to their violation of the sea. He took on the robots of earthly destruction, but could not disarm the robots of the palsied mind. And he asked for a dialogue with God but witnessed only the disappearance of a consciousness that could reply. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, thank you, Indy.
Nice.
I love that line, the disappearance of a consciousness that could not reply.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yes, both of those were very powerful.
Well, I'd like to offer something because it's a response in the sense that I also wrote a climate poem taking as its theme one of our Jewish holidays. This one is Sukkot. That's what I call it. It's a Jewish harvest holiday celebrated at the first full moon after the autumn equinox by erecting a temporary hut called a sukkah, which is roofed only by branches that you can see the sky through, and in which at least one meal should be eaten as a token of briefly dwelling there. So the poem goes, full moon and golden Jupiter glow through twigs and sticks of the sukkah's roof. This ad hoc abode lacking plumbing or lights, save for lanterns to feast on the harvested foods. Inside the house, the TV news shows hurricane damage. The houses reduced to debris, sticks and twigs, roofs blown far away, roads flooded, eroded, the long bridges broken, and buildings naively intended for perfectly permanent homes gone indeed with the wind. Bewildered survivors pick sadly through rubble and lack lights and plumbing. They've no celebrations, their homelessness being a real devastation, though just as predictable given the changes to climate as calendars ages-old dates, and the seasons still circle and the future's uncertain, and nothing can wait.
Nothing can wait.
Wow.
Wow.
Nothing.
I love the way you compare the sticks and twigs from the Sukkot to the houses. I guess
Yeah.
that was your point, was
Yeah.
contrasting them, somewhat of a dialectic poem.
Yeah, exactly. That's what really struck me too. That was great.
So I have a response to Thea's poem that goes in, is more of a deep dive into why didn't we do enough, and the sort of lifestyle that's fossil fueled. So this is it was published in a booklet that Rabbi Deborah Smith of Aleph put together called Our Fractured Planet: Reflections on Climate Change and the Environment. And the title is Home Audit 2030. So, bedroom. Waking up from the dream of a snowbound holiday with extended family and friends, tossing aside sweat-soaked Egyptian cotton sheets on a smart bed built for two, commanding the thermostat to lower the temperature, reprogramming the blinds to permanently block out the sun. Am I at home? Bathroom. 5 minutes on the self-sharpening rechargeable rotary shaver, 2 minutes on the Bluetooth-enabled toothbrush that monitors brushing performance in real time, 10 minutes under the high-pressure pulsating massage shower head, 2 minutes under the nano titanium hair dryer. Am I at home? Kitchen. Pancakes, Vermont maple syrup, Irish butter, and California raspberry compote, microwavable single-serve breakfast box trucked in from the other coast, uploading forkfuls while downloading the morning news, watching the Dow and NASDAQ plummet as the mercury rises. Am I at home? Home office. Surfing the web on the high-performance workstation, tapping the power of 24/7, 365 data centers across the globe, zooming in on a gallery of digitized colleagues, multitasking on other screens with my camera turned off. Am I at home? Basement. Floodwaters reaching just reaching just below the gas-fired Energy Star boiler and water heater, and the now beeping gas dryer set on eco mode, positioning the laundry basket to receive my telecommuting togs, Zoom-compatible shirts, sweaters, and suit jackets, mostly made in China. Am I at home? Garage. Activating the garage door remote while asking the GPS for directions to the nearest pharmacy. Revving up the Toyota Land Cruiser V8 built for 8. Adjusting the dual zone automatic climate control system to neutralize the extreme heat. Processing the windshield display of empty yards, vacant sidewalks, and Amazon delivery trucks. Am I at home? Living room. Voice activating the jumbo smart TV, searching for something heartfelt, inspiring, nostalgic, binging a Netflix series from pilot to finale, savoring the buzz of simulated connection to other life forms. Am I at home? Dining room. Touching down on the yoga mat atop the expansive Persian rug, where a dining room table once held sway when company was easier to access. Clicking on the self-guided meditation app, gazing at the blazing logs of the fake fireplace, never quite arriving at the present moment. Am I at home? Bedroom. Resetting the smartphone alarm to sound before sunrise, sliding under the Egyptian cotton top sheet, doom scrolling through drought, flood, and wildfire updates, dreaming of a snowbound holiday with extended family and friends.
Wow.
Oh,
Oh. So did you add up your whole carbon footprint there? Did you come up with a number?
I think it would just exceed, it certainly would not keep us below 1.5
Yeah.
degree Celsius global warming. So.
Yeah. It just there's such a subtext to that poem. It just sounds like you're listing technology and lifestyle and all, but there's such an underlying subtext to it all too. The harm that we are all doing by living these lifestyles.
Well, it made the point. I mean, it's kind of over the top, listing absolutely every possible super modern thing that you can imagine. But it made its point that way.
Wow.
Thank you, Mark.
Katy, do you have something you can share?
I have two poems. They are sort of connected to each other, at least in my mental process of writing them. So the first one is called Complexity. Sitting by a stream, enveloped in subtle autumn beauty, feeling solid ground beneath, breathing invisible, life-giving air, awareness awakens. Verdant summertime leaves conceal yellows and oranges, reds, maroons, and complexity beyond measure. Introduced species, small and large, exotic flora and fauna suppress more delicate autochthonies of many hues, small and large, and complexity beyond measure. Death, demolition, and destruction hide and inflame grief and fear, despair, desolation, and complexity beyond measure. Rising seas and rampaging wildfires, screaming winds and persistent drought overshadow and obliterate connection to earthy soil and solid rock, iron core of earth, and complexity beyond measure. Sitting by a stream, enveloped in subtle autumn beauty, feeling solid ground beneath, breathing invisible life-giving air, watching beloved children at play, quietly unexpectedly touching grief beyond words, beyond comprehension, beyond endurance, that simmers steadily in the silent, static, and active living earth, in expansive and tortured human realms, and in the deepest, most hidden, most vulnerable recesses of the soul, complexity beyond measure.
Oh, beautiful.
And the second one was inspired by a couple of phrases from the Song of Songs from the Priestess Siddur. It was just suggesting this as one alternative to the Shema. And so the words of those there's like words from two verses put together, and those words form the basis of this poem called Yearning for Connection. My sister, rich, fertile soil crumbling in hands, digging the garden, watering and planting, to till it and to tend it. My friend, trees tall and short, living, growing, dying, surrounding and enveloping, nurturing, hushed quiet, a still small voice. My dove, solid, wild ground supporting supine body, gazing skyward, following drifting clouds. For he lay down in that place. My pure one, clear, cold waters tumbling toward the sea, cooling, tired feet resting in the stream by the rivers of Babylon. She is one.
Just beautiful. Just beautiful. I want to ask you about the complexity beyond measure, and then you got grief in there. Like, I thought you said grief beyond measure. And why were you drawn to that word in writing that?
Complexity beyond measure, that part of it,
Yeah.
that phrase. I think, well, it's a really interesting question. And I think there's something so incredibly overwhelming about how complex the situation is that we cannot even begin to articulate it. And there's, and as we've said before, everything is connected. And it's just this, it's beyond comprehension, beyond ability to measure, beyond, so just trying to articulate. And I think there's a connection between how complex it is and how deep the grief can go, because that is like almost an acknowledgement. The complexity is almost an acknowledgement of like how difficult it is really to really do something that makes a meaningful difference. So.
And yet you seem to capture these different phases, the evolution, the plants, the animals, the humans, the death part. You seem to break it down and point to each one of these little things is complex in itself. It's like a fractal. The deeper you look, the more complexity you see.
Yeah, right.
Is it okay to ask to read something again about the dove?
Yeah,
The-
sure.
The dove, could you read that again?
Sure. That from the second poem. My
Yeah.
dove, solid wild ground, supporting supine body, gazing skyward, following drifting clouds, for he lay down in that place.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Barbara, you seem to want to say something.
Oh, I just said it was beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah, just beautiful.
I have a poem. I don't know. Are people familiar with Sharon Olds' Ode to Dirt?
yeah.
So should I read it anyway?
Yes, read it. Read it.
I don't have a good copy, so forgive me if I. Dear Dirt, I am sorry I slighted you. I thought that you were only the background for the leading characters, the plants and the plants and animals and human animals. It is as if I had loved only the stars and not the sky, which gave them space in which to shine. Subtle, sensitive, you are the skin of our terrain. You're our democracy. When I understood that I had never honored you as a living being, I was ashamed of myself, as if I had not recognized a character who looked so different from me. But now I can see us all made from the same basic materials, cousins in that fast exploding from nothing in our intricate equation together. Oh, dirt, help us find ways to serve your life. You who have brought us forth, fed us, you who are the end, at the end will take us in and rotate with us and wobble and orbit.
Wow, of course. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that and sharing that.
You.
I love that.
Yeah. Sure. Sharon Olds, she's got another poem about her sister and her and I think Katy, you mentioned sister. You used the word sister, I think. So if I can jump in with a short poem about my sister.
Mm.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's called Angels. I'm reading an article about how there will be no more winters, and I get a text about my younger sister. I want to keep reading, but I also want to see the text because she's been sick. Everything is getting sick, and I'm scared. I'm remembering the two of us standing side by side. She's in her blue snowsuit with a pointy hood and her Cinderella scarf. Are you ready? She asks with a raised eyebrow. I'm seeing flakes on her eyelashes, how the front lawn is covered with 2 feet of white snow. And resting against the garage are our shovels, the ones we pretended to help our father do the driveway with. And she yells now, and we start falling into the snow. I'm falling. I'm in free fall, like Telstars traveling across the sky. I'm falling, believing the snow will be soft but cold. Way in the future, after the 5th time she tries to kill herself, I think about this moment of falling, and I will remember it when my great-grandson asks me what snow was like. What was it like before everything changed and got sick? We're falling, and we land in a puff and laugh like flickering wicker wisps. We lie in a womb of this freshly fallen blanket over which children's snowsuits stick up like bippity-boppity fairy dusters. We're like flowers in the desert. I look over at my sister, not knowing it's the last time that I'll see a glint in her eyes. And with a glint in her eyes, she says, go. And we're flapping our arms like birds, like bluebirds, like soft butterflies, like meadowlarks. We are meadowlarks migrating on whirring wing beats over meandering rivers and miles of haystacks. We are ephemeral like angels. We are angels. We are angels. We will always be angels.
Oh,
Just scrumptious, scrumptious.
yeah.
Wow.
Who is it?
Thank
I'm
you.
trying Hello?
Yes, hi, Adrian. Welcome.
Oh my God. I, oh my God. Okay. I am trying to contain myself as I listen. Uh, and the power in the in so much I've heard just so far is astounding. It is it is so enlightening, so astounding, so raw, and man, eh, not being a poet myself, I cannot. It's hard for me to just take it all into one chest at one time. It is just it blows myself apart,
Wow.
wishing that everyone could be in moments like this. Everyone could be in moments like this and really think about what's being felt and said. Ah, and it hurts. It hurts my body. It hurts and it frees. So I don't know what else to say. Thank you, Thea. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.
Wow, Adrian, thank you so much for sharing that and for opening your heart and just expressing what you're feeling right now. I really appreciate that. It's just
And it's painful. Yeah, thank
it is.
thank
And you know, the fact you said it's painful and it's freeing, I think that's, you know, that's certainly my experience in trying to express all of this in words, is that it's painful and yet in some way or other it's also a release. So
yeah.
yeah.
So both the pain and both the release are
Yeah.
powers. How can you throw those out into the universe? I don't know. Thank you though. I'm still here. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks, Adrian.
You have to throw it out to the universe because that's what literature is. And that's why no AI will ever write literature, because literature comes from having something that you need to express.
Mm.
And all an AI can do is respond to a prompt. And that's what makes the difference. So
And I think too that it's part of being human.
yeah.
It's about part about staying sane, because it's like if we keep all this tied up inside of us, then
Mhm.
you know, then we can't function. And you know, for me, that moment sitting in the autumn woods was a turning point, because it was like I really put it all out there and from the depths of my heart in a way that I hadn't before, and it's made a big difference. So I think it's part of, you know, we call this piece of JCAN spiritual resilience, and that's what I think writing poetry is, part of keeping us resilient and sane. But thank you.
And I just want to add to that I really appreciate having the space and having a place where we can have both, and the grief and the joy, because so much of my everyday life, it's either or it's I don't know.
Yeah.
So, or I can't, it's nebulous. So to be able to have such two intense opposite things and know that it's okay is really, it's good.
Good. Yeah, Barbara.
Yes.
Did you?
Okay. I have two short poems.
Wonderful.
Okay. By as soon as I saw the subject of this evening, a poem I heard in first grade in elementary school in Flatbush, Brooklyn, popped into my head. And of course, I remembered it all these years. And we used to sing it. We had music in the choral group by a poet, an American poet, Joyce Kilmer, who was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and it's called Trees. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast. A tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray. A tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Homes are made by fools like me, but only God
Can make a
can
tree.
make a tree.
Yeah.
And I memorized that in elementary school too, Barbara.
I could see everyone recognizing it, right? But now, just for something very light, a very short poem that's thought-provoking in this time of recycling and nature and being aware. And it's a poem I always performed and told assembly for Earth Day assemblies in May in schools when I toured the schools. And it's called The Water Cycle by Helen H. Moore. It's food for thought. When I was young, I used to think that water came from the kitchen sink. But now I'm older and I know that water comes from rain and snow. It stays there waiting in the sky, in clouds above our world so high. And when it falls, it flows along and splashes out a watery song. As each raindrop is joined by more and rushes to the ocean's shore, or to a lake, a brook, a stream, from which it rises just like steam. But while it's down here, what do you think? Some does go to the kitchen sink.
Beautiful, beautiful. The water cycle. We're getting a little science
So
into
cute.
this. They say science is important, but it's really stories that let people feel and understand what's going on and respond to it, because science will just turn people off. But that's why we do this writing to help people know more. Okay, Michael, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I have a little in the vein of rhyming poems. I have a little rhyming poem that I wrote, somewhat inspired by Joyce Kilmer, but it's called The Leaf. I stare at a low-hanging maple leaf, which stares right back at me, leaf and I, in deep regard of our common destiny. I marvel at its fractal veins, its splendid symmetry, its community of fellows in a verdant symphony. It admires my ease of movement, my endless facility, but sighs at my rash of discontent, my heedless tendencies. Belief in its buddies without request take in my carbon waste, for which I can only tip my cap and hope to reciprocate. That's it.
Wonderful.
That was fun.
Thank you.
I love the focus on the leaf, and I've heard the word fractal twice tonight, and heard the word verdant twice tonight. So
I love the phrase verdant symphony. That was beautiful.
I also wrote a poem about snow, and I'd like to post this poem to social media when there's a big snowfall in our area, so that people who get angry about having to shovel or something, they remember the greatness of snow. So I'll read this. It's called Bright Prospects. Free from guile or prejudice, snow casts a rarefied grace. It fills the land with crisp equity, assured monument to the earth's greatest artifice, the tip and axis that brings us appointed seasons. Crystal by breeze sculpted crystal, fasten atoms poised to bestow the promise of our existence. Each waterous orb, spritz of the universe's most fertile molecule, hugs its drop until the earth's bias turns once again so that the crocus and hyacinth wake to its flow. If you take the snow to you, if you survey its bright prospects, stride into its treasured potential, run hands through its sharp intensity, taste its porcelain presence, you can glory in the working of the world.
Wow.
Wow.
I like
Glory in the
porcelain
working of the
presents.
world. Sorry, Louise, what?
Oh, I like the phrase porcelain presents.
Uh-huh. Beautiful.
Thank you, Andy. I think Mimi had her hand up.
I had a poem that was in a way, well, related to lots of these, but to Mark's poem because it's about ideas about home, and I'd love to read it. It's a ghazal or guzzle, however you want to pronounce it, and so that means it's each stanza has 2 lines. It has a repeating end word at the end of each stanza, and each couplet can stand on its own, but they can also relate to each other. So
Could you repeat what kind of poem it is?
it looks like, the word looks like ghazal, Ghazal, but I've been told it's actually pronounced guzzle or ghazal or something.
Got it. Okay, great.
I think everybody calls it a different thing, but anyhow, this one is called Postcards of Home. I hope nooks in my brush pile give small creatures a safe home. Just don't let them near my house. I don't want them near my home. As ice sheets melt, creek beds dry, and winters warm, so nostalgia fills us with homesickness, though we are still at home. Wedges of warm pound cake with tall glasses of cold milk. These were tastes of love in my grandparents' Weirton home. Rising seas, torrential rains, once a city, now a lake. Shall we rebuild houses into houseboats for all who call a coast their home? 2 nights at a cramped hotel or Airbnb, yet after seeing sights on foot for hours, we say after dinner, let's go home. My laptop beams the lost green view of my parents' summer's home. Will we only see our yards on spaceship screens once we devastate our home? Aloud, one small bag on the boat. Refugee Noor left his clothes to bring friends gifts, guitar pick, rosary, a flag, his talismans of home. Like Noah's Ark, we sail the cosmos on one storm-wracked ship of life. Sailors, pull together, heartily. Don't capsize our home. If Earth is a school where souls learn to love, let me write one poem that breaks open your heart before we return home. Thank you.
Okay.
That was wonderful. I love that, constantly returning to the home. Oh my gosh, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
I just need to say there's like a whole group of really amazing poets on here tonight. I am like honored and touched to be with all of you.
I love the line about if Earth is a school to learn about love. I love that.
Yeah, I love that part too. That gave me chills.
Yeah.
It's a great
Lois,
form. It's a great form to play with. I really have enjoyed trying different things with it.
has it been published anywhere?
Not yet. No, I haven't. No, not yet. If you have ideas, let me know.
I just did some submissions today through Poets and Writers magazine. They have all these places to submit.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Yep. Anybody else? Katie, do you have another one?
I do. I have one that's called Orange. Autumn leaves of orange, the carroty shades of maple, then the subtle rusts of oak mark the sacred cycle of the year. Now a pumpkin hue is added, a cheerful backpack carrying needed supplies for a walk among the hallowed oranges. Its creation a brutal act of destruction of the world of trees. Only a willingness to live fully in ambiguity can begin to answer the unanswerable question of how to reconcile and live harmoniously with Earth when even the tiniest step damages, demeans, and destroys.
Wow, beautiful. That sums it up. It's a willingness to live in ambiguity.
If I may, I wrote one other poem tonight. This one is on a New England highway, because that's where I was when I wrote it. In this place, the glacier once loomed a mile high, scouring the ground, laying granite bare. Now in December, brown leaves all blown down, the land's humps and dips reveal rocky outcroppings that rise through the soil, seen through countless tree stems, where crunchy leaves already start their slow rot into earth soft and fertile. Each year's indescribably tiny addition builds further fertility, nourishing trees, squirrels, chipmunks, soil microbes, ferns, beetles, birds, deer. Where ice went to rock, went to tundra. Now green forests cover recovering earth. Because even when it takes 12,000 years, Earth knows how to heal.
Wow.
I love the end. Especially, I love the
Earth
whole
knows
thing,
how
but
to heal.
especially the end.
We need to see Earth's resilience as well as our urgent need to do something about what we're doing. I mean,
I
it's
so
both.
agree.
It's both.
I agree.
Well, Earth will survive. I mean, that's no question. Earth's been through worse. And
Oh yeah.
so it's not, Earth will survive. The problem is we may not
Oh,
survive
me.
with it.
This poem is a little on the scientific side, but it's thinking about, since we are losing dry land through flooding and so much rain, this is just some thoughts about what evolution is going to bring us once there's no more dry land on Earth. And it's addressed to mammals. It's called "The Next Great Intelligence Will Arise from the Sea." Mammals, your time of dominance on Earth is coming to a close. You arose from rodents whose world expanded when the dinosaurs died off, lacking protection as they did from the thick dust and blistering heat of an asteroid's strike. Rodents survived and flowered into a plethora of species, including Homo sapiens, who created art, music, languages, ideas, innovations. Soon, though, and those days are coming, you mammals will lack protection from your own environment as waters rise and cover the earth. Those same minds that refuse to stop burning fossil fuel may invent special boats to live on and aquaculture for food. Homo sapiens may survive, but will no longer flourish. Other land mammals will perish without a Noah to save them. In those days, and they are coming, the next great intelligence will arise in the sea. Will it come from the great whales, mammals themselves, who sing and travel world's ocean? Or perhaps from the octopus, whose keen intelligence and imagination now goes to protection from predators? Perhaps the octopus will evolve into other sea creatures who escape solitude and band together, whose females survive mating and childbirth, who build defense structures to withstand predators, freeing intelligence for other matters. Our landlocked minds struggle to imagine, but those days are coming, and the next great intelligence will arise in the sea.
Wow. Beautiful.
Such an interesting idea. Wow, thank you.
That's something to really think about, is who will survive and how they will evolve. You know, mammals survived what happened 65 million years ago, because mammals were really small at that time, and the big dinosaurs were destroyed by the asteroid that hit, but mammals were small, and so they evolved and got bigger. So very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good. Verdant.
So I
Verdant
was
fractal.
thinking a lot about how climate change is connected to, excuse the mask, I'm in a place that I need to be masked. Climate change is connected to colonialism and to capitalism. You know, follow the money, like we've been saying. So this is about Trinidad and Tobago. That's Tobago behind me now. And there's a lot that gets lost besides rivers, lakes, forests. About 20 years ago, I was at a conference about languages that were disappearing, and found out at that point that, and I don't call them extinct languages, I call them extinguished languages. And at that point, there were 300 extinguished languages in Australia alone.
Wow.
And given that the indigenous people have been the stewards of our climate, it's, you know, and of our earth, colonialism and capitalism has played an enormous, the most enormous part in where we are now. So this is, I'll just explain two things. The Pitch Lake, Trinidad, sort of gave up a lot of its cocoa and coconut plantations when they discovered oil fields. And the whole island was sort of given over for oil fields. And the Pitch Lake, pitch is like asphalt. It's like very gluey oil that flows across the street, and the road is like all like this, and you can walk on it. It's pitch, but it's very soft, especially when it gets warm. So the Pitch Lake is that. It's a whole lake of that like gooey oil that they sold, and that's changing too. And just parang is Spanish music, Spanish celebrations. So Trinidad tongue. A few of the old people back in the villages speak a bit of it still. Patois. That French that rings faint, distant, in a few phrases that creep between the English. Colonial powers that lost make a cameo appearance, like the Spanish that gave the island its name, and lives barely on in the parang procession that spices Christmas with maracas and cuatro. But no one knows how Caribs sounded, or whether they had many words for arrowheads of different sorts, or different textures of pitch in the Pitch Lake. Their descendants know plants to cure, kuzimaho, and mother of vines, that they seek in the bush. Arawaks, though, are gone complete. Language, lives, and culture. Only some rock drawings persist and remain. And in the small metropolis of Port of Spain, Arawak brand packaged chicken squawks from billboards.
Wow.
Wow.
Very hard to hear. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Hard to see, too.
Yes. Yeah. Anybody
Well,
else?
speaking of oil, I think I could read this El Segundo poem. El Segundo is a town in Southern California. It's also a power plant. We're in my sleek red Toyota on the 405 freeway, not far from the Pacific Ocean. It's nighttime and we're passing through El Segundo. You're wearing a light blue beach blouse and you ask, should I hold my breath? I'm staring at the power plant. I'm staring at my future. It's raw and stark. I'm remembering how I once choked on an apple. Everyone was staring at me and I tried to stare back to tell them I couldn't breathe. The power plant is all lit up with about 1,000 lights on an endless scaffolding and whacking generators. You'd think it was noon. El Segundo means the second in Spanish. It's the second power plant that Chevron built for crude oil coming from the Amazon. I've never been to the Amazon. What's the color of crude? Is it the same color as an apple core? 10 more power plants pinpoint the Southern California coast like pinwheels, like wingedings, like spitting out an apple core. We're the lucky ones, I say. We don't have to live here. The next day, we're standing in Los Angeles in Pershing Square for the climate strike. There are so many people, it's hard to breathe. If someone has a panic attack, we'd all be trampled. And you ask, are we safe? A big stage is set up below the purple clock tower. Weighty orange balls are balancing on cement pedestals like huge gumballs. It's hard to see much more than the person's head in front of me. Meryl Streep is speaking on the stage. She's wearing a white blouse and purple pants that match the clock tower. I'm listening to her. I'm listening to my future. It's raw and stark. The crowd is packed in like sardines, like kippered sardines, like apples clunking off a conveyor belt. I'm smashed up against a stranger's blue backpack with a boot camp logo and a quick zipper. It's the second time I've seen Meryl Streep in person. I remember sitting in Izzy's Deli on 15th Street in Santa Monica. I was digging into an apple pancake, which is more like a souffle. She was having breakfast at the table next to me with her 2 small Meryl Streep look-alike children. I could hear the clinking of forks against knives, the scraping of plates. Everyone was pretending she wasn't there, but we all knew. It was like the air had been sucked out of the room, like we were all gasping in her presence, like we were squeezed into a merry-go-round. She was eating blueberry pancakes as if it were ordinary, and we were spinning wildly, pressed into our booths, unable to breathe. And as I'm listening to her at the climate strike and she's pointing at the distant oil rigs, it all becomes clear. It doesn't matter where we live. Bel Air and Beverly Hills are still on this planet. It's the hottest summer ever, and next year it will be even hotter. There is no place to hide. Even the movie stars are worried. I look at you standing next to me. I remember how we used to walk the dogs on the beach before they all died. I answer, yes, hold your breath. There's no place safe anymore.
Oh,
Whoa. Oh my goodness.
oh,
Thank you, Thea.
Thea,
Thanks.
wonderful.
I can't.
All right. I have a very short one. that I came up with a couple of years ago when we had a drought. I call it what it is an atypical rhyming haiku. All the lawns are brown, sad leaves droop down. We are out of patience with drought.
Nice. Wow.
Could you read that once more? I'm sorry.
Yes. All the lawns are brown, sad leaves droop down. We are out of patience with drought.
I do have a 2-page poem. I don't know if it's too long to read. It's I organized a rally a couple years ago. Dianu did, they did sidewalk seders in front of all the banks that are investing in fossil fuels, and we did one, and we wrote letters to the presidents of the institutions asking them to move their money. And so, we demonstrated in front of Chase, and I wrote a poem to Jamie Dimon, the CEO, trying to urge him to move his money. I don't know if people might like to hear it. I try to personalize it as much as possible to him and his life. Like he lived through 2 near-death experiences, 2 illnesses, and survived. And I also include the names of his actual children in this poem. And I mailed it to him twice, and he did not respond. But anyhow, I hope he's read it. So it's called Dear Jamie Dimon. This Passover week, our magnolia transformed into a many-armed goddess sprouting pink and white flowers along all her limbs, brightening the sky and lighting the night. Soon she will collude with neighbors to perfume half the block. This Passover month, a new report told us we have 3 years or less to cap carbon emissions and only 8 years to cut them in half. If we hope to save ourselves and everything else from being baked, burned, drowned, or starved by the plagues we're unleashing on our only home. Remember when your kids were babies? Did they smile at you like you were the sun? Did you watch them sleep, awed by their beauty, and swear you'd do anything to keep them safe? At this point, should we simply hope that we and our loved ones will be passed over while we try not to care about everyone else? What Australia's firefighters said they could never forget as walls of flame raised miles of bush was hearing the koalas scream as they burned. This Passover week, we remember how the angel of death spared the Hebrews' firstborn sons. Like them, Jamie, you too have been passed over. Why were you spared when so many others were taken, passed over not once, but twice? Was it to be the tip of the spear, hurtling the whole menagerie of humans, koalas, butterflies, and whales into a future so awful we can't bear to face it? Or was it because you might be the engineer with the flexibility, fortitude, and smarts to most quickly redirect the commerce as usual express about to haul us over a cliff? This Passover, please ask yourself, will Cara Lee, Laura, and Julia be grateful for the billions you leave them, or furious and ashamed as they watch every floor supporting life for Egypt's children collapse? This Passover, please ask yourself, will your shareholders be grateful JPM remains the world's largest fossil fuels investor when renewables generated 7 times fossil fuels returns? This Passover, please ask yourself, what do I want to be remembered for? Stiff-necked denial and delay, or for the courage to swiftly lead others out of slavery to ruinous old ways, into a world that's green and new. Why have I been passed over?
Wow. Thank
Wow,
you, Amy. That was amazing.
beautiful.
You know, you gotta wonder if somebody like that reads this, how do they not hear it at all? You know, I I can't fathom.
Well, that's how I feel. I FedExed it to him with special notes to him and his secretary, like personalized notes and handwriting, so that to make sure that he would hopefully read it. So I hope he's read it, but yeah, he's not doing the right thing, that's for sure. Still.
Well, there's an uptick in, multi-million dollar survival shelters
Yeah.
being built. That's how they're answering it.
Right, right.
It's almost like there's wisdom and then there's people that don't are immune to it. The patriarchy and it's so systemic that no matter how loud we spoke or how soft we would whisper, they couldn't see it. Can I tell a real short story, like 3 lines? It's
Sure.
affected me, and it's helping me to understand how people have different points of view, and what anyway, it was a joke, but there's a woman and she's watching her neighbor hanging out her laundry. And she's amazed because her neighbor is hanging out dirty laundry. And she knows this woman. She says, "What's wrong?" She's hanging dirty laundry. And every week, the neighbor hangs out dirty laundry. And she says to her husband, "Look, this is what's wrong with her. She's hanging out dirty laundry." Well, one day she looks out the window and the woman's hanging up beautiful white clean sheets. And she says to her husband, "Look, something's different. Look what's happened. Her sheets are so white." And her husband says, "Yes, dear, I washed the windows." I was looking for a non-cultural story that everybody could understand, appreciate, and
Thanks for the laugh, man.
That's funny.
maybe we need to wash their glasses or something.
It's called suspension of disbelief. Something I wrote after reading an article in the New York Times that kind of affected me. Digging and shoveling tall mounds of black crumbly dirt and food scraps, replete with fungus, bacteria, and insects, the city composters do their grueling work. For young Domingo from the projects, learning to compost helped save him from despair. He learned how to do it from his 60-year-old friend and mentor, David. But composting couldn't save David. Early one spring morning, he immolated himself in Brooklyn's Prospect Park. He didn't think he was making enough of a difference anymore and sought, quote, an honorable death that might serve others. One fewer carbon footprint, he reckoned. David had his New York Times headline. Domingo decided to carry on and is composting more than ever. Not that it's easy. Saving the planet, or even just yourself, requires a little magical thinking, a suspension of disbelief, a casting away of contradictions.
Nice.
So
Wow.
true. So
Like
true.
that.
I couldn't agree more.
Did hear about,
Yeah.
it's a little bit being formed still, and it is a bit on the little bit longer side, but thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be off picture. I have been dealing with a lot of health stuff through Lyme. Okay. Cold day, bright sky. I woke not knowing that today or that day would be the last I would see my friends. They lived tall, proud lives, looking over my days in this house, watching Julie and her brothers and me climb cherry trees, ride go-karts, play capture the flag through all the backyards of this suburban place. All these years later, Julie and I would live in places like France, the White Mountains, England, and farther apart from each other and the oaks of Greendale Ave. I cried when her mother died, and more so watching my mother leave flowers at Dichi's grave and kiss the stone in the Catholic cemetery to say goodbye to her friend. These two women raised daughters in love in Pollitt's ballet studio, singing off key for Girl Scout leader songs. Dichi delighting in the orange red of Arlene, that was my mom, and Arlene's, Japanese maple, as bright as my mom's bottle red hair, as she called it. After Julie's dad died and her brothers pushed the house sale, I painted one last time the cherry pink blossoms of the tree and her house. You will always be our neighbor. After my own mother passed in 2007, a ceremony of passing swirled in Bibles, Torahs, Qurans. Julie came to hug at the hospital. After Julie's motherly kindnesses to me of 8 Hanukkah gifts, just like my mom used to give. Several months later, I drove across town to a sacred place of white pines. I was angry. There had been stuff that had happened. The words I wrote to my old friend were honest but cruel. Now we see each other every few years, but at least the house is there, the cherry tree. Nothing would prepare me for the day when the friends who lived in the neighborhood for decades longer than Julie and me and our combined years were taken from us. The trucks pulled up before I knew it. I was just sitting at my computer. The deafening shock of the chainsaw and chipper jolted my friends like the metal on metal crash of the 7-car pileup on 128. My was one more loss ripped through her. New neighbors they were, from so far away with the love and here. These trees, these oaks were not their friends, simply an insurance hazard or a nuisance that the realtor suggested must be dealt with before the next house sale. How does one murder a double-trunked oak? Nowhere near the house or power line. A tree for solar power or a garden? No. The next neighbor, 2 after the 2-month house flipper Bitcoiner, was worse than the last. More trees down, more branches. He took down the trees, took out Dichi's rock garden, everything, all for plastic wall. Okay, and then the great wall of Needham monstrosity, literally fabricated out of the fossil fuels, H, D, P, and E. Their landscapers threw fistfuls of blue chemicals made from one of 2 poisonous ingredients of Agent Orange. Fistfuls and fistfuls out of an entire wheelbarrow full. These toxins covered the place where my friends once stood. Nay, my family once stood. No matter how many times I called the MDAR pesticide inspectors, they refused to come because when they queried the land scrapers, with their high decibel leaf blowers deafening our ears each hour, they blew gasoline At 110 decibels, 105 is the noise a carbon-wasting airplane makes when taking off. They didn't care. These men were of muscle and hate, and like most land scrapers, at war with their mother, the earth, come every week for an hour of blowing away pollinators, winter Betty Bye places, and this hour there plus that hour there of my 12 neighbors, or more like 40, or more like 732, who hire these people. Each hour is like driving a car from the tip of Cape Cod to Provincetown and back to Cape Cod, Provincetown to North Adams, to Cape Cod, to North Adams, to Cape Cod, 7,000 miles worth, just to blow the leaves and the dust. Though the mycelium whispered to me this winter, it was really not a winter because of the fuels and the fossils. And the ticks will survive in the memory of our friends, the trees. After 10 years of watching my hometown destroy itself with the mansions and tree slaughter, tonight I finally had hope, listening to friends who also feel this way, or the way that they feel. As a thread tonight of 89 people, minus one, lamented the cutting of our friends, no, our family, the trees. We ask our friends for their indulgence. As someone suggested, we borrow their offspring for a petition to finally create a tree ordinance.
Beautiful, stunning, stunning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, I found that really hard to listen to. It drives me nuts when I see good, healthy, mature trees getting slaughtered. Oh,
Well, someone,
Yeah.
someone, this is like one of the number one topics, the McMansions and the trees in Needham. And someone, like over the past couple of days, posted, what can we do about this? And like 89 people, weighed in. Only one person was like, well, it's none of your business what they do. And everybody's like, but it is our business.
Yes, it is.
Trees, it's the environment. It's da-da-da-da. Sometimes the best organizing you can do is when you need to step back and watch other people take their place in the
That's very
discussion.
true.
And it was very powerful. So hopefully
Beautiful.
a little bit of hope here.
I want to turn the over to Katy to kind of wind us down because we have to end. I personally want to thank everybody for the incredible words and thoughts and feelings and insights that you all shared. I will treasure this whole experience that we have had tonight. So Katy.
I agree totally. I want to just kind of, send us out with this very short little poem called Marcescence, and the continuing the theme of trees here. I learned this word, I don't know, at some point I learned this word and I heard it for the first time, and then all of a sudden I started hearing it all over the place, and I just love this word marcescence, which in case you were like me not that long ago and don't know the word, refers to leaves that stay on the trees during the winter of deciduous trees. And anyway, it's got this sort of onomatopoetic thing that just really goes for me. So this is called marcescence. Hang on, don't let go. Don't follow the crowd. Be your own person. You too can have the audacity of the oaks and the beeches to keep your leaves all winter when all the other trees are calling. Be like us. Let go, let them fall. Be your own person. It's worth it.
So cute. Thank
all
you.
of you who are here are doing something, yeah, okay, so, and I don't know, and Thea also asked me to share a prayer. I have a prayer here, but it would take me a second to find it. But I'm happy to say that prayer to end us. So if you just want to say something, Thea, in a minute while I'm
Okay, I just love I love all the new words I learned. I love the ideas that were shared about suspension of belief and cold days and dear Jamie Dimond and the next great intelligence will rise from the sea and bright prospects and orange and on a New England highway and complexity and home audit. And of course, Joyce Kilmer's The Trees.
Ah, yeah.
Adrian,
Yes.
did you want to?
Oh, yeah. Again, this has been a very rich and comfortable and enlightening experience. And I've got notes too, Thea, like my mom used to have me recite Joyce Kilmer.
Yes.
And sing it. I think that I shall never see, how lovely is a tree.
God.
And she'd say, start it over.
I don't know if you all know Adrienne Williams. She's an incredible actress and story and she gives wonderful sermons and she played Sojourner Truth in my play and movie. We did it for you.
Adrian, excuse me,
Yes.
do you remember how that goes, the tune? I would feel so much.
But only God a tree. Did you hear that?
Yeah, beautiful.
That was beautiful. Thank you. That was like
Okay.
that was a little nigun there leading us into, yeah. So I'm gonna just
Thank you, Adrian. My
share
heart
this.
beats.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I'm gonna just
Okay.
share. Oh, go ahead.
I'm out.
I'm
Thank
just
you very much for yeah, I've got about 4 or 5 pages. That's your fault, Thea. Okay.
great.
Bye-bye.
Good to
So
see you.
I'm just gonna say this prayer for the earth to close us out.
Okay. Okay.
Ribono shel olam mosei v'reshit, Master of the universe, creator of all, may it be your will to bless with compassion your creation. Please, God, bless this sacred earth, from the ant to the whale, from the giant redwoods to the bacteria, from the sand at the edge of the sea to the mountains, rivers, and streams, from each one of us to all humanity, all that exists in this world, we ask from the depths of our hearts, El Na, please, oh God, bless it all. Please, oh God, please heal it all. Sur Kola Olamim, Rock of all worlds, please place in our hearts understanding of the impact of our actions upon your creation. Eloheinu velohe abotenu ve'imotenu El Na. God of our ancestors, O God, please help us. Renew within us courage and strength to do your will with a full heart. Help us to heal with wisdom your earth. Goalenu, Matsilenu, our Savior, our Redeemer. Teach us to live with each other, with love and with peace, in compassion and in loving kindness. Baruch atah Adonai, oseh niflaot, uvorei hakol. Blessed are you, Adonai, doer of wonders and creator of all.
Amen.
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 Rabbi Katy. Can we,
Thank you, Rabbi Katy, for that.
Oh, you're
Rabbi
welcome.
Katy, could we
Thank you, Thea.
Thank you for everybody
Thank
for
you very
attending.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for
Thank you,
coming.
Thea.
Thanks
See you.
for
Bye-bye.
doing this and
Let's do this
Yeah.
again.
So
I
much.
think
Thank
so.
you,
Yes, let's
everybody.
do
Very
something like
inspiring.
this again.